Hello and welcome to Dungeons and Dragons and drawing your player characters based only on their description, where I, a total D&D greenhorn, draw and design your characters based only on text. This week we have our first non-rogue character. Her name is Masozi Brimstone and she's a barbarian. And also a fighter genasi, which is very interesting to me. These guys are on fire! Okay, sorry. Anyway, the appearance of a fire genasi is a broad spectrum between bonfire and human with red hair. So I had a lot to work with. Especially interesting, I found the skin tones, which can range between red, coal black and ash grey. But let's go back from Fire Genasi in general to our Fire Genasi general, Masozi. Masozi is an ex-military general. She's 47 years old and her alignment is lawful evil. She can stare down hell without flinching and her ideal is might. In life as in war, the stronger force wins. Her loyalty knows no bounds. She would die for anyone who fights beside her, and she still has 2 wedding bands on a chain around her neck. Which is part of her backstory or villain arc, because Masozi actually joined the army in an attempt to reform the system, but instead of reforming it, she is now one of the heads of it, who trains the next generation to be killing machines. In a tragic surprise attack, her husband was killed and she lost one of her arms and now uses a prosthetic arm. But the wedding bands are still around her neck on a chain. So let's gather the references we need and jump right in. Armor isn't really my strong suit, and fire and coal and ash are full of surprises because there are actually a lot of parts that are white or black or very, very intensely orange. So it's always good to work with references, right? Right. Alright, you can see my sketching phase is a bit shorter than usual because when I sketched the head in the right hand corner, I knew that this was what I wanted to go with. At first I had the idea of a very bitter and hunched over, mean-spirited person. But then I remembered that she wasn't really a born villain. She's not a Disney villain in that sense, that you can tell just by looking at her features that she's the evil one. She was made to be evil by circumstance. So I wanted to capture that. So I gave her a more longer face that is drooped down by her frowny eyebrows and her stern expression, marked by a broken heart and resignation, if you will. Something that's generally important to me is to not just make the evil characters conventionally unattractive or to make the heroes conventionally unattractive. I just like to make characters who have strong features and memorable features, who aren't just eye candy. Nothing wrong with some eye candy from time to time, but it's just something that I like to do to challenge myself and find interesting ways to portray personality through design. Because Masozi is a very strong woman and her ideal is might, I gave her a more broad silhouette, strong silhouette, more rectangular, and a pose that is very strict. Her prosthetic arm looks like armor. It's a little bit more of a blurry line, which I think would be fitting because she would use this in battle to her advantage. Sneaky side note, this line art took me over an hour, but it was worth it for our first barbarian girl! And then I had some fun with coloring. I first tried out a very dark color palette with reds and blues, cold and warm. Then I leaned into the military aspect and played with the contrast of her red skin and her green military uniform with some highlights the orange highlights inspired by the inner glowing heart of the coal. Something that was in my mind from the beginning was to give her a more ashen look, because the fire that once drove her to strive for better times or a reform of the military is now gone, and what's left is the white grey ash, which is why I gave her this light colored hair but red skin in contrast. There's a scar-like tissue in her face, inspired by the cracks in coal, which is also to symbolize this dying of ideals in a way. There we go. Thank you for listening. I think this was a bit longer than usual because there was a lot of backstory and character motivation to get into, but I think it was worth it, because you gotta transform the things in text into the image, and I like it when it makes logical sense, so I gotta explain a lot. Anyways, thanks for listening, and until next time.